Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. For the second time, I have the pleasure of welcoming a friend of mine, Michael Howard, very successful business owner, a man of huge amounts of knowledge and someone I'm very pleased to know and also able to learn off over a long period of time now. So Michael, thank you so much for coming back onto my channel to share your knowledge.
Pleasure. Nice to be here.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for joining me.
Oh my God, 2022.
I know, it's time's literally flown by. And look, for anyone who is seeing Michael Howard for the first time, what I'll do is somewhere on the screen, I'll pop up with a link to our previous interview in London at Michael's offices. And Michael has achieved great success with a fantastic backstory, which I hope a lot of people can relate to and offer a lot of hope and sort of drive for people wanting to achieve success. So let's jump into it. So just to give everyone an overview of what today's interview is going to be about, it is basically avoiding the biggest money mistakes for any new aspiring entrepreneur or someone who's perhaps launching a business in this new year, especially as there's been so many changes. So I want to kick this off with in 2021, there was a lot of news around people making a lot of money, millionaires, but I don't think a lot of people who lost money were in the media. You know, we didn't hear a lot of the bad stories. We only heard these lottery winners, Michael. And essentially, what I want to tap in and take from you to offer some reality and perspective to the audience is that although living this millionaire lifestyle and trying to achieve fame and success and within business and personal life, it's not all glitz and glamour, and actually it's quite hard. So I just want to start with the idea of being a millionaire. Why do people hold on to this and think that that's the dream?
Well, I remember bizarrely, as you said that, when I was at infant school, like the first school that you go to, and I was probably 6 or 7, and I remember kids in the playground going, "My dad's a millionaire." Of course, none of them probably were. Well, I'm 56. So that was like 50 years ago. People were talking about a millionaire. So I mean, £1 million is not actually an awful lot of money really anymore. I mean, there's not that many houses in central London that would be an awful lot less than £1 million. And £1 million house in central London, as an example, is not like a glamorous house. So yeah, it's a well pumped out thing, be a millionaire and all of that. And I think it comes with the, I'll be my Lamborghini, I'll be flying first class, I'll be wearing Versace and all of that stuff. And I don't really think that's what money's about. I think that is, well, ultimately, money is one or two things. It's either a physical thing. So in other words, it is, it's either that, which we don't use much these days, or it's text on a phone or a computer screen that gives you an amount, or a piece of ink on paper if you get your bank statement in the post. So money itself, I think it's more about why do we actually want it? Ultimately, we really want to be happy. Happiness is what we really want. We're trying to find it in a way. We're trying to, when you look at the adverts for products and services these days, they're very lifestyle led. In the old days, if you look at an advert for a car, it was about the engine and about all of this driving. No one does that anymore. Now cars go down the road and people jump off into the ocean with the cool guy or the cool girl, and it's like, if I buy that car, I'll live that lifestyle. And I think that's the issue that we've got. If I have the handbag, if I buy Chanel, if I buy Gucci, if I buy BMW or whatever, I will be happy and I will have this sort of very cool lifestyle. The Instagram is the great example. Everyone's Instagramming everything. So I think that the pursuit of happiness is better than the pursuit of money. But I don't. I mean, money is important. It is just a fact. It's like food. I mean, you do have to eat to live, and you do need money to pay for everything. But I think the pursuit of sort of being a millionaire to tell everyone that you're a millionaire, or to, Instagram your life, or to do all of this, I think it's. I mean, put it this way: I've come from nothing to where I am today. I've had probably more cars than most people I know. None of them have made me any happier. That's not a reason not to have a nice car, but the box you think that you're ticking, the thing that you think you're going to get by all of that stuff, doesn't really materialize. It's what I would call a warm bath.
Is it short-lived?
It just goes cold very quick.
Yeah.
You know, the new car, you think it will change my life. You can't sleep the night before and it arrives. Oh my God. 3 weeks later, it's just a car.
Yeah.
It doesn't last very long. If it lasted, put it this way, if you could take all of the money and turn it into material assets, and you would be the happiest guy in the world, look at all the people with money. I mean, there is a ton of people with money who are not very happy. But look, money's not designed to give happiness. That is not what it's designed to do. The problem is the society and the adverts, the Instagram is educating us that the money equals happiness in this lifestyle. But it isn't true. But it's not designed for that either. Money is not designed for that.
So how does someone stay humble? Because this is something I think people find quite hard now, is when they start making money, and there's almost something called new money now, that you can blow up on social media and these platforms, and then all of a sudden the money comes swarming in for this pretend lifestyle that, like you said, that's portrayed that you're happy. How does what would be your tips to someone to stay grounded and stay in this for the long term and actually put that money to use? Avoid making that, going and buying the Ferrari and realizing that actually a week later it's pretty boring, it's just a car.
Yeah, it's a lot of this is a process, because when you've come from nothing, you sort of want to be able to tell the world that you've become a someone, and you want to say, look at me, I've got my cool suit on, I've got my model guy, my model girl, or whoever, and here's my Ferrari. You want to show off. It's quite natural to do that, but I guess you could look at a bit beyond it and look at all the people that have gone through the process and come out the other side. And the other side of the process is, it's all fine, but it's not going to change my life. And why would I want to go and buy a £250,000 Ferrari on money that I don't really have, just to show off? It's a bit pointless. But I do understand that people have to go through it. But I think I would look at all of the people that have found happiness, gone through it. Watches. I've got a whole bunch of watches. None of them make me any happy. Wouldn't make any difference if I had one or 10. It's like irrelevant. But I guess people do have to sort of go through it. The best thing to do, though, is look at all the people that have gone through it and go, I can actually save myself a ton of money and time and bullshit, and actually sort of skip over some of that. There's no happiness in possessions. Be grounded. Also, if you're an Instagrammer, and this is not my world, but if you're an influencer, are you an influencer for 10 or 15 years? I don't think so. I think you're an influencer for a very short amount of time while you are popular, because you've left Love Island or you've left that fades, and the new girl comes in. So if you are an amazing influencer today, that may not be sustainable in a year. I mean, football players are a great example. Their career is very, very short and a lot of money, but it comes to an end, and actually can come to a premature end as well if they get injured. So we've got to be clever about being sustainable. I don't mean ecologically sustainable, but sustainable with our jobs, our careers, our money, to actually do stuff that can go on. And no, we've always got to change. We've got to move forward. We can't just stay doing the same thing. The world changes so quick, and it changes quicker now than ever in time, because of technology and because of the past. When I was born in 1965, to most people listening to that, they will think that, oh my God, I was brought up with the Beatles or something. But I was born in 1965, and I think the population, this is not deadly accurate, but the population of the country was around 30 to 35 million. Well, in my little tiny lifetime, it is doubled. They built the M1 motorway in the 60s, I think, early 60s. And it was like 4 cars going up and down the M1, and it was like 2 lanes. Things move quickly. So we've got to make sure that we have a career, a job, money that is sustainable, and knowing that we will have to keep changing and moving forward and so on. But you don't know whether I answered the question, but going back to what you've said is that you could have concentrate on what makes us happy, what makes an enjoyable life. And that does not mean to say you can't have watches and cars and you can't have fun and you can't do whatever, but you just got to know what delivers what. And if you if you're nasty to everyone and you're not a nice person, it doesn't matter how many Ferraris you've got and how much money you've got. So I think being grounded and just being a decent person, there's an unwritten rule about being an entrepreneur or being successful. And the unwritten rule is you take care of other people. That's the unwritten rule. When entrepreneurs who are wanting to be successful, if you're already a successful entrepreneur, your job is to try and help them on their journey. If I was in I won't quote all the country. I was in a different country recently, and in the country that I was in, I think the people that drive the taxis and the people that work in hotels are treated not very well. My job, your job, is people like me get the door open for them. Yes, sir, and all of that. Honestly, we are the last people that need it. The person who empties the bins, who serves us, who is the policeman, the fireman, the hotel porter, the waiter, the taxi driver, get nothing. They're paid badly and they have a very mundane job. Our job is to be really nice and to take care of them and to tip them well and to appreciate them. And that's about being grounded and being a nice person. And we've got to realize that no matter how busy our lives are, that's such an important part of being successful. Being successful is not being greedy and selfish. It's actually spreading the love, but that doesn't mean to say you can't have a Ferrari or do whatever you want. It's your life. You can do whatever you want. But I think the rules of the game, the unwritten rules of the game, is be decent, be nice, take care of those around you, your family, of course, and all the people beyond it. It doesn't cost much to look someone in the eye and say, that was really nice. I really appreciated you opening the door or doing that for me. Thank you very much. Without being patronizing, without being horrible or in any way feeling superior. God, that's a bloody lot.
No, it was a brilliant answer. I think it's quite hard for people to go and do what you have just said there, because in a day and age where, let's just call a spade, we're in a day and age where everything's very selfish. It's very look at me, look at what I'm doing. So I think people actually struggle to turn around and do what you've just said there. And I think more people should. I mean, just to let everyone know, I mean, Michael, you've been a massive help to me and the advice and everything like that. And that is very rare. So I think for anyone watching this, what would you say in terms of if someone started making money, how could they be a bit smarter with their money? How can they ground themselves when they are perhaps cash flowing very well and it does go to their head? What little things can they do? Perhaps placement of money. Do they go, right, okay, I'm going to make some sensible decisions rather than look at me wearing the Gucci slides?
Look, yeah, I mean, I think you can get to a point. I think when you get to the point is, if a Rolex is £10,000, that should not be your goal. If you go and buy a £10,000 Rolex, it's because the £10,000 is an insignificant amount of money. That's when you can afford one. If you've saved up for one, that's a mistake, because you can't really afford it. The Rolex and the car and all the flat comes later, when you're minted, because you've taken care of your money and you've invested it well and you've looked after it. Then you can say, I mean, I happen to have this watch on. I can't remember how much it cost. Say it was 4 or 5. Say it was 5 or 6 grand. It was an insignificant amount of money when I bought it.
Yeah.
It is better to buy the luxury items when you can really afford it. Like when you can buy, someone said, if you can't afford it twice, don't buy it. I'd say if you can't afford 10 of them, don't buy them.
Can I? What I want to say here as well, for anyone watching, I'm going to include it again on the screen. Is actually something you've just mentioned is a mirror of what I said. I have something called like my priority payment checklist. So before I ever buy anything, or me and my wife buy anything, automatically as a good habit, I have a checklist in my head to make sure our emergency fund, our maintenance fund, family money, investments, before we can ever self-justify buying a materialistic thing. And not enough people live by that. And can I, just to give people a real perspective here, because again, going back to what I said at the beginning, Michael, that there has been a lot of fugazi about you can buy an NFT, which is essentially a non-fungible token, of a painting, and it's $10 million in a metaverse. Just to give the concept of becoming financially free or successful, whatever you want to define it as a timeline, because I think people are forgetting that it takes a long time, is just for perspective, from when you started to a rough turnover of multi-millions, what does that timeline look like so people can actually get that in their head?
But it's a long time. Look, the problem with an NFT, which I know very little about, nothing, is the Instagram and the Facebook and the social media says, I bought this and it looks all cool for $3,000 and I sold it for 45 next week. Now, I'm not saying it's not true. It could be true. The challenge is that I would look at the odds. Everything to me is about the likelihood. So if we heard of an unfortunate aeroplane accident tomorrow, I would still get on an aeroplane. Because the truth is I know the odds, and I know the odds of an aeroplane accident are, I'd have to get on an aeroplane, I can't remember what the statistics were when I looked at it years ago. You'd have to get on an aeroplane every single day for 85 years for you to be involved in an accident, even if it was a non-fatal one. So I know even if there is an aeroplane accident this week, it wouldn't stop me going, because I know what the odds are. What are the odds of me or you or anyone listening going to buy an NF, whatever it's called, for 2, 3, 4, 5, $8,000, and a week later, it doesn't really make sense? I mean, wouldn't it be great if I felt that was real? I'd fucking buy all of them. I mean, who wouldn't? Yeah. So why, if I'm now buying this thing, right, online, and someone bought it for $3,000, and now I don't really get it. Now, I'm not saying it's not possible. I know I don't really understand it. But for me, it doesn't sound right. If you go and look at art appreciates steadily over a long, long period of time. Unless the artist is very, very famous, who everything they touch turns to gold. So I'm not sure whether any of that is a good thing to be involved. If everyone wants to get rich quick, I don't get it. It doesn't mean to say you can't, but the odds are against you.
Yeah, because you always hear of the success stories. You always hear of the person. I mean, one that I heard of recently, again, and I would say for every success story, there's 100 that perhaps are now in quite a bad financial situation. So if someone's looking to, I don't know, get lucky, start a business, and they're thinking that they can make their millions in a short time frame, what would you say to that, in the sense of, actually, if you want to be a millionaire, a multi-millionaire, I would get ready for the journey of this might take you 5-10 years?
First of all, being honest, to become a millionaire or multi-millionaire, the odds are totally against you, not for you. That's the bottom line. I mean, as an example, every single company that starts up, a new company registered in the UK at Companies House, 50% fail in 1 year, 50%. So you've got a 50% failure rate in 1 year. The statistics, which I happen to know, over 10 years, is 96% of companies fail over 10 years. In other words, if you started a company today and you projected forward to 2032, only 4% of those companies would be around. If you then look at those 4%, out of those, who is turning over something worth turning over, and who is making a profit worth making, that you are talking of the 1 or 2 or 3% of the 4%. So to make it through is enormously difficult. And if you think you can, I've got a great idea, I'll start a company, I'll get some funding, I'll get some, it's hard. There's no question about it. This is difficult. All the things that are easy, anyone can do. Anyone can do. In America, there's a huge thing about people running their own business. And a lot of people will take an option that's a very simple one. If you've got a little bit of money and they've been laid off from their job, they've got to pay out, they've got 20, 30, 40, 50,000 dollars, and they're thinking, I want to have my own business. They go and get a Subway franchise. They go and get a Dunkin' Donuts. They go and, because that's huge in America. We obviously have franchises here, but the entry level is, but all you do is you're now working in a Subway store every day.
Yeah.
What you're doing, you're making sandwiches every day in a Subway store. So for people to be truly successful, they have to know, I mean, if you want to sort of, financially successful, you have to know it's difficult. I mean, it's like climbing Everest. It's a very big difference between going out for a walk. So if you leave now your office, your house here where you're in, and you go and walk down to the seafront, round the and back again, and it takes you 45 minutes, it's very different than climbing Everest. Anyone can do that. Anyone can, or most people can go and do a quick walk round. Hardly anyone could climb Everest because there is so many different components. The fitness, the planning, there's some luck, of course, weather, technical stuff, oh my God. But starting and running a successful business is like climbing Everest. There is no doubt about it. Lots of people can start a business and say, I've got my own business. Like lots of people can say, look at me, I've got a £50,000 BMW. Yeah, it's all on finance. You don't own it. People will say, I've got my own house. Well, the Nationwide Building Society sort of own it. You don't really own it. You feel like you own it. You may feel good about it, but it's not true. So people have got to be, know it's a mountain to climb, literally like Everest. And secondly, you can't climb Everest in the same time scale as you can go walk around. I mean, it's not possible. Yeah. The rewards are huge, but the risks are huge, and the time scale, it's just how it is. And wouldn't it be great if you could buy an NF thingy, or you could do Instagram, or hardly anyone will ever make any money. Some people will. It will be the 1 0 point thingy. So you've got to change the odds, and the way to change the odds, you've got to work hard. You've got to have a great business plan. There's no easy way to do it. Now, I know lots of people that are 10 times, 100 times more successful than me, and none of them, there's no one that I know who's really made it proper money that hasn't done it the hard way. The hard way, turn up every day, work 80 hours a week, give it everything, cope with the lows. The highs are easy. I mean, lots of people, what happens if we become really, you don't have to worry about being really successful. Yeah. That's don't worry about it. You have to worry about failing. And most entrepreneurs, most people running a business or whatever, all they worry about, I'm going to fail, I'm worried about failing, I'll go bust, let everyone down. It's a tough gig. It's not for the faint-hearted. But if you think you can just buy a few stocks and shares and do that what would it used to be? Foreign exchange. Remember that? Oh my God, I'm going to go on this training course with this guy who flies a helicopter. Remember all of that? He was like, oh my God, this guy was flying a helicopter. He was selling training courses for foreign exchange, and he was doing it. And you sign up for my program, you do that, and you'll make a grand.
Yeah. It's that old thing of, if it feels too good to be true, 9 times out of 10 it's the case. So there are some amazing takeaways in there, and just as we wrap up here, Michael, what would be your top 3 tips to someone wanting to make good sense of their business, financial decisions? What would be the top 3 for someone who perhaps is about to start or run a 6, 7, potentially 8-figure business?
Well, first of all, look, you've got to make sure that you understand. If you were a pilot and you were flying a plane, there's a ton of dials in front of you. And some of them, are less important. Maybe the temperature of the cabin, if it was a little bit too hot, a little bit too cold, it wouldn't be perfect, but it wouldn't cause the aeroplane to have a problem? How much fuel you've got, how far you've got to go, what your altitude is, what your airspeed. You have to know all that to fly a plane. So when you have a business, you've got to work out for your business what all of those dials are for your business. You've got to have cash flow, money coming in. You've got to be able to make a profit. You've got to find customers. You've got to understand sales, distribution. It depends what your business is. You've got to know it all, and it's got to be a business that you've got to imagine in your mind how it's all going to work before you set it out. If you decide to have a shop and you have a shop somewhere, how are people going to come in? And if they come in and buy a pair of socks or is there money in it? If you just sell 10 pairs of socks a day, do you go bust or do you make a fortune? You have to figure it all out. How do people get in the shop? How do you sell to them? How do you buy that stuff? How do you promote it? You've got to figure out every single bit. And if you can't, or you're not prepared to, you shouldn't be in business. Don't do it. It's not for you. There's no shame in it not being for you. Yeah. It's not for everyone. I can't climb Everest. I wouldn't be able to do it. I couldn't cope with the uncomfortableness of doing it for so long. So I would never do it. And if you're not prepared to understand every single thing about your business, a lot of people I've met recently, they go, I'm not the numbers guy. Well, you can't be in business. It's all about numbers. You can't have a business that's not about the numbers. And it's all, I've got this business, but I'm not very good at, I'm not into sales. If someone has to buy something, you have to be into sales. You have to be into numbers. You have to be into product. You have to be into customers. You have to be into finance, company, everything. There is no way out. In the same way as I can't say, if I'm going to climb Everest, I don't want to do the bit with the rope. You have to do it all.
Yeah. I don't like that part because it's hard.
The rope bit's not for me. So we'll go round. You have to do the rope bit.
You've got to go up.
There's no option. Also, by the way, when you get up, come back down again. So, I don't like the down bit. It hurts my ankle. Oh, don't worry, we're So you got to know what you're in for. I don't want to paint a gloomy picture, but look at the statistics. If only 4% of business survive after 10 years, and even most of them don't make any money, the odds are against you. Anyway. So what your job is as a potential entrepreneur, as a business owner, is you've got to change those odds to you, and you've got to be prepared to put that energy and effort in to figuring out your business before you even start it, every little bit, and test it. Did it work? If I need 30 people a day to come into my shop, how will I find them? What do I do to get 30? And if 30, how many people buy? 15? What happens to the other 50%? What's the average value of each order that they buy? How do I upsell them? What about the credit card? How long does it take to get that money in my bank? What interest do I have to pay on the credit card? Who's funding it? I mean, it's a lot. It's a complicated thing. Like flying a plane. You don't just sort of sit there and do that all day. It's complicated. And when you first learn to drive, although that's obviously easier than flying a plane, that feels complicated. If you ever remember, look, mirror, maneuver, gears, clutch, brake. Oh my God, it almost feels like it's impossible. But running a business isn't impossible. It's totally possible. Many people do it. Not many people do it really well. And most of the people that do it are accepting something that is average. You've got to be prepared to put the effort in, and it's hard.
That's amazing. There's some golden points. I know loads of people are going to learn and they'll be absolutely engrossed in this. So there were some amazing points there, and I would just sort of finish on saying that, going sort of off the back of what you said is consistency, being persistent, being able to take those ups and downs. So, Michael, as we sort of come to a wrap there, perfect timing, is just want to say thank you again so much for coming on the channel. I do know that so many people are going to learn, and there's going to be really, really good, valuable takeaways. So until next time, we'll speak and catch up soon, Michael, and thanks for everyone watching, and we'll all speak soon.